Hey everyone, welcome to today's Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. My name is Nate Carter. I had a good friend, actually one of the elders of our church back in Dallas, who every day would go out into nature and would read a psalm and would just kind of study a psalm every day. And I always kind of wondered, boy, did you ever get sick of the psalms? Why would you do that every day? Today, as I look at Psalm 77, I can admit, and as we're going through the Psalms together, I can admit, I get it. I get it why that was such a rich time of worship and prayer and devotion with God. Psalm 77 just, I mean, for me, it just hits where I find myself sometimes. I cry out to you, God. Yes, I shout. Oh, that God would listen to me. When I was in deep trouble, I searched for the Lord. All night long I prayed, with hands lifted toward heaven, but my soul was not comforted. Have you been there? I bet you have. I bet you've had those dark nights of the soul, maybe long seasons of time when you're wondering where God is. You're asking Him, you're putting in the time to, to call out to Him and ask Him to intervene. And it just seems like radio silence. I love that the psalmist connects with that. The psalm gets it. The psalmist gets it. He lived the same kind of life that we do too, wondering when God's going to answer. Verse 5, I think of the good old days, long since ended, when my nights were filled with joyful songs. Now, as I read that, I'll admit I said, yeah, right. I mean, do we ever really have those like long periods of time where just everything's joyful and great? No, that's probably just hindsight looking back and thinking with rose-colored glasses how things used to be. Sure, we have those one-off nights of celebration and good times, but probably the psalmist is exaggerating a little bit what the good old days were actually like. But then again, that's exactly what we do, isn't it? We look back and we go, gosh, life used to be so easy. It used to be so much better. I just love that the psalmist puts those emotions down into text for us to communicate with God. Verse 8, once again, just just honest here. His is his unfailing love gone forever? Have his promises permanently failed? I mean, this psalmist Asaph is getting frustrated with God. He's starting to even wonder about God's character. Again, ever find yourself doing that? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? And I said, this is my fate. The Most High has turned his hand against me. I mean, it's kind of like, you know what? All right, I'm just gonna live with it. I'm just gonna conclude that God has left the building. Now, again, has he left the building? No. But do we sometimes feel that way? Yeah, maybe. And I love that the Psalms give us that permission to be able to just to wrestle with those feelings. But watch where it turns in verse 11. But then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. So here I want to point out that the psalmist puts in the hard work. He doesn't just say, you know what, I guess there is no God. He says, you know what, God's been with me before. God's led me through the tough times before. I've been through the dark waters, the deep waters, and the dark tunnels. Pick your metaphor. And God's led me through. Let me actually sit down and remember who God has been in times past. Verse 14, you are the great God of wonders. Verse 15, by your strong arm you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. When the Red Sea saw you, O God, its waters looked and trembled. The sea quaked to its very depths. And then the psalmist goes on and recalls all the different ways that God has shown up in the life of the nation of Israel, leading them through terrible catastrophe and chaos and leading them to the promised land. And he goes through and he lists those different ways. And actually, the psalm comes to kind of a screeching halt there at the end. And you wonder if his journaling time ended or something else happened. Or maybe he realized, you know, that's enough. I can trust in God's character, God's provision in the past. Now, I don't know. And if you're like me, you know, sometimes you journal these things out and you go, okay, I remember. and I'm still depressed, and I'm still wrestling with this, and I'm looking for God to come through in these situations. That's okay. It's okay to know God has come through in the past and to wonder, how's he going to do it this time? But perhaps the question isn't, is he going to do it this time? But rather, how is he going to do it this time and when? So we can trust in God's character as we remember the past, and then we take that memory and we project it forward to the future, putting our confidence in who God is and his love for us, and that he's going to lead us through. I've said before many times on this devotional that I think one of the powerful words of the Bible is the word remember. When you're feeling down in the dumps, take the time, put in the work to remember how God has come through in the Bible, in what we read and trust in his word, and then also in your life as well. And as you remember those things, put your confidence in what he will do to lead you through to a better time ahead. God bless you. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.